Buying and Sourcing by Procurement Services. In this session, we will touch upon some general topics to include buying and sourcing, negotiations, policies, bidding thresholds, preferred vendors, process, best practices, and lastly, resources. So let's get buying. Fairness, good faith, and goodwill in transactions are concepts that create a strong procurement department. Competitive sourcing, as well as dealing with preferred vendors, results in greater transparency within the purchasing process. Being open and impartial allows for greater trade opportunities, allowing multiple vendors to compete and participate in the bidding process. Remember, we're all responsible for using our student tuition dollars wisely. Research grants and donor funds allow us to be innovative and flexible. While these funds benefit many university programs, they also can have a far-reaching impact that benefit our community programs as well. What is buying and sourcing? When making purchases for the university, we must understand that we are stewards of the university, focused on creating the best experience for our students and using their tuition dollars wisely. Buying is obtaining products in exchange for a payment. Planning, decision-making, following policies, and negotiation are all facets of the buying process. Sourcing is funding high-quality, low-cost goods and services that meet the needs of our organization. Preferred vendors help to meet those needs based on their established relationships with the University of the Pacific. Negotiations are the first step in the buying process. Vendors will initiate pricing by sending quotes for the goods and services being purchased. Determining the best value will be the challenge for any purchasing situation. Always apply best practice negotiation tactics. The ultimate goal is achieving the best value for the university and providing the best experience for our students. Emphasizing quality and staying focused on the best quality for the price will determine the best value. Focusing on the priority of the must-haves versus frivolous upgrades or unneeded add-ons will help keep the price down on the goods and services. Leverage available contracts and resources to help achieve the most competitive prices for the purchases. Getting quotes from multiple vendors will help determine the highs and the lows for the goods and services getting quoted. Promoting competitive bids and solicitations will allow for analysis and cost comparison based on the volume of goods or services that are needed. The first price is not always the best price. Be thorough. Always ask for the best and final pricing. Research vendors based on consortium affiliation for deeper discounts. And always ask if there are further educational discounts when purchasing products. University policies for purchases are based on the full amount of the purchase, including shipping, sales tax, and installation. These policy threshold requirements are for all university purchases regardless of funding or purchasing method. When negotiating any purchase, the more comparative pricing you have, the better. Looking at the column on the left, for purchases between the 0 and $14,999, quotes or bids are encouraged but not mandatory. Purchases from $15 to $24,999 require 3 verbal quotes. These can be verbal or screenshots you may have researched online pertaining to the product you are needing. Purchases greater than $25,000 require 3 formal quotes or bids on company letterhead or an electronic form from the vendor's system. Screenshots are not considered a formal quote. The quotes must be comparing apples to apples for the purchase. Finally, for purchases greater than $150,000, a formal solicitation is required. Also, you will notice in the second column that these thresholds are slightly different and must be adhered to if funding is from a sponsored research or grant. These purchasing thresholds and backup documentation requirements are part of the university's purchasing policy. Necessary protocols assist with making good decisions about selecting the best vendor and the best pricing for your specific need. All backup documentation is reviewed to determine appropriateness and adherence to competitive bidding policies and is retained for audit purposes and in accord with our document retention policy. Competitive bidding is key to good negotiations. If competitive bids cannot be obtained, a single or sole source justification form must be completed and submitted to procurement for review and acceptance. This form is used for items that are one of a kind or that are manufacturer specific for operation with existing equipment. Single or sole source justification forms should only be used in rare occasions. Honestly, with the ability to search across the globe for products and services, it should not be difficult to find competitive pricing. So what is a formal solicitation? In simple terms, It's a solicitation for bid or quote, but just more detailed, and often includes consultation with other stakeholders or committee members. The RFP compares the capabilities and total cost for what the vendor offers. The purpose is to evaluate one or more vendors in a formal and structured way to obtain a detailed proposal that may contain strategies or recommendations in addition to total cost. The formal solicitation process promotes competition. Vendors are much more thorough and competitive given they know they're competing for our business. We have RFP templates available for you to use, a 4-step guide, and of course, experienced procurement staff that can help you with the process. Preferred vendors. What is the process for determining a preferred vendor and why is it important for our organization? Preferred vendors have established relationships with the university by demonstrating that they understand what the ultimate needs of our students are. Competitive pricing, top-of-the-line quality, and best-in-class services are what set these vendors apart from the competition. The process in which these vendors have proven their worth is through bidding, RFP participation, and having durable quality goods and services that exceed their competitors. We have vetted these vendors to make the buying process that much easier. Preferred vendors can be found in the Preferred Vendor Directory. With a few simple clicks within MyPacific, you can find the vendor directory. These vendors have contact and ordering information provided. Using quotes from preferred vendors should be the first stop for your purchasing needs to help facilitate a quick and easy transaction. Some preferred vendors have master contract agreements in place to streamline the purchasing process. Purchasing methods. When do we use a ProCard versus a purchase order? ProCard is our preferred method of payment when appropriate. ProCard is the most efficient and cost-effective way to procure your goods. It's quick and transparent, with most vendors transmitting Level 3 data, which means they transmit descriptions of what was purchased. ProCard can be used for almost all purchases regardless of the amount or funding source, with some exceptions, like capital equipment and independent contractors, to name a couple. See the ProCard policy for the full list of authorized or unauthorized items. A purchase order, or PO as we call it, is created for any purchase that cannot be made using a university ProCard. So let's talk about these two examples considered as unauthorized that must be put on a PO. Capital equipment purchases are one type of purchase that must be put on a PO. The reason for this is that we use specific commodity codes so that when the PO is paid, Banner will automatically set up the depreciation schedule and track the asset in our financial system. To determine a capital asset, you must first look at the value of each item. You must consider shipping, sales tax, installation, and potentially the accessories needed to make the equipment work. If the value is over $5,000 in total, then most likely it is considered a capital asset and must be put on a PO. Procurement services or financial reporting can help you with that determination if you are unsure. Another important exception to using ProCard is independent contractors. Regardless of the amount, these should almost always go on a PO. Independent contractors must be examined for potential California tax withholding requirements if they reside out of state but perform the service in California. We would be out of compliance if we use ProCard, as we would not be able to withhold the tax since payment is immediate when using ProCard. Any exceptions would need to be reviewed by Procurement Administration or Accounts Payable. Both purchasing methods have their place in our business processes. If in doubt, please reach out to Procurement to determine the best method of payment. Buying and negotiations. Understanding departmental needs is important when making purchases. Your department's needs and product knowledge is critical when purchasing the best value to fit the need. Keeping an eye on vendor rebates and sales incentive creates strategic sourcing opportunities. Group or bulk buying can also reduce costs and open more sourcing opportunities. Always plan accordingly, stay within your budget, and realize how the year-end timeline can affect your purchases. Increase efficiencies by limiting wasteful, unnecessary purchases, and stay focused on the underlying goal of improving the students' experience and education here at the university and spending their tuition dollars wisely. The University of the Pacific has a buying process for purchases. First step should always be to analyze the purchase for your department and determining how that purchase will maximize the student's education or experience. Determine your budget for the purchase and make sure you have authorization for the expense. Gather your quotes, bids, and proposals for the item or services you will be purchasing. Determine which vendor you will purchase from. If the service, be sure to submit your contract through the appropriate point of entry for your area. Determine the method of payment, if you can purchase via ProCard or PO. If PO, make sure the vendor offering the product is set up in PaymentWorks first so that you can enter the requisition and banner utilizing the assigned banner ID. Create your requisition, determine if the item will be capital asset or not. Ensure you have approval to submit the requisition. Send the form requisition along with all competitive quotes to the Procurement Services Department for review and processing into a PO. Once created, a signed purchase order will be sent back to the originator of the requisition, and the vendor will then have a contractual agreement to send the items as ordered on the PO. Once the items are sent by the vendor to the university, the product needs to be received and verified that all items were sent correctly to validate acceptance of the order. Follow through with the appropriate AP process once product has been received to initiate the payment to the vendor properly. If more items will be received, then continue to work with AP, and at final invoice, you must approve and request the PO to be closed. If the PO is inadvertently left open after final payment, you may submit a request to procurement to close that purchase order. Procurement best practices for making the buying process as smooth as possible. As we have touched on this presentation, every purchase requires planning and budgeting for a successful purchase. Be mindful of cost savings and how those savings could benefit your department. Creating long-lasting relationship with vendors, being fair and professional in your negotiations, keeps vendors engaged for potential future orders. Always keep in mind that we are here to make student experience at Pacific the best it can be. Purchasing responsibly serves the greater good of the university. Always work towards best and final pricing with vendors. Procurement Services is your one-stop solution for sourcing and buying. Leave the quotes and bidding to us so you can focus more time on your department needs. We are here to make purchasing an easy process. Our focus is to free up more time for you and to find value-based solutions to address the identified need. Working to mitigate risk for Pacific, we can help with contracts, negotiations, formal solicitations, analysis, and sourcing. We work with all departments and at times have bulk or leverage buying opportunities that could save your department time and money. We take into consideration small and minority-owned businesses to diversify our vendor pool and create more opportunities within our procurement process for these types of small businesses in the region. Keeping in line with university initiatives, sourcing from sustainable and socially responsible companies will help to keep the supply chain flowing smoothly and reduce our carbon footprint. Let us help you out. Self-help. Services and information can be found through MyPacific. We have several links to help throughout your purchasing process, and we are updating this information routinely. Our negotiations toolbox has features to help you, like our 4-step guide for RFPs and templates for your use. We have a do's and don'ts guide to answer any questions you may have throughout the procurement process. Additional guides, online training, resources such as experienced procurement staff are available to lend a hand and partner to obtain the supplies and services you need. Our goal is to optimize vendor relationships, leverage the entire organization's spend, share best practices, and develop and implement contracts for the entire university. Let us help you. Thank you for participating in this presentation. We look forward to helping you along your purchasing journey.